بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. صلى الله عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي يا رسول الله. صلى الله وسلم عليك يا سيدي ويا مولاي وابن مولاي يا أبا عبد الله. يا رحمة الله الواسعة ويا باب نجاة الأمة ويا عبرة كل مؤمن ومؤمنة ما خاب والله من تمسك بكم وأمنا من لجأ والتجأ إليكم. يا ليتنا كنا معكم سادتي فنفوز فوزا عظيما. قال الله تعالى في محكم كتابه الكريم وقوله الحق وهو أصدق الصادقين. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. إذ قال له ربه أسلم إذ قال له ربه أسلم قال أسلمت لرب العالمين. Swaying your gathering with a remembrance upon Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. As a gift to the soul of Sayyidina wa Mawlana Rasulullah and his honorable and purified progeny, recite the second salawat. For Allah to shower onto this gathering with His infinite mercy and compassion, and to hasten the reappearance of Sayyidina wa Mawlana Sahib al-Asr wa Zaman, recite the third salawat with the loudest of your voices. Ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. On the 27th of Rajab, 60 years after the migration of Rasulullah from the holy city of Mecca to Medina, and less than 50 years after the demise of the seal of messengers, Khatamul Anbiya, Rasulullah, on a dark and lonely night, Al-Imam Abu Abdullah al-Hussein went towards the visitation of the grave of his grandfather Rasulullah, accompanied by some of his family members, some men from Bani Hashim. They say that this indeed was an extremely special ziyarah of Imam al-Hussein to the grave of his grandfather. The men of Bani Hashim narrate, they say Imam al-Hussein repeatedly, many times, said his goodbyes to Rasulullah. It's as if it was going to be his last ziyarah. It's as if he was never going to return to the grave of his grandfather Rasulullah. It's as if it was truly his last goodbye. زاره زيارة مودع لا راجع إليه. He sat in front of the grave of his grandfather and he wept and he cried, saying his farewell. Then he stood and he made an important declaration, a very important statement to his men, to his family members. He informed them that he was going to embark on a special journey. He was going to take over an extremely important task. And he has chosen the path of martyrdom and sacrifice, fi sabilillah. 1,381 years later, brothers and sisters, we gather here this evening to commemorate Imam al-Hussein and the martyrdom of Imam al-Hussein. Millions upon millions of people around the world will wear black from this evening, and they will gather in majalis to commemorate the aza of Imam al-Hussein. However, what's extremely important for us to understand and to keep in mind is the vision of Imam al-Hussein, the mission statement of Imam al-Hussein. And Imam al-Hussein has made that extremely easy for us. That same evening when he left the city of Medina, he was encountered by his brother Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah. Muhammad told him, Ya Abu Abdullah, our beloved, you are the reminder of Rasulullah amongst us. Please do not leave the city of Medina. There and then Imam al-Hussein made it clear to Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiyyah and to millions of people around the world and within the course of history what his mission statement is going to be. He says, إني لم أخرج أشرا ولا بطرا ولا مفسدا بل خرجت لإصلاح أمة جدي رسول الله لكي آمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر وأسير على سيرة جدي وأبي. وهذا يزيد رجل فاسق فاجر شارب للخمر مبيح للنفس المحترمة وقد ركزني بين اثنتين بين السلة والذلة وهيهات منا الذلة يأبى الله لنا ذلك ورسوله والمؤمنون. Very brief, precise mission statement of Imam al-Hussein. He says, I do not embark on this journey for any other reason, for any other purpose besides to rejuvenate and to perfect the ummah of my grandfather Rasulullah, and to take lead from the example of my grandfather and my father Amir al-Mu'mineen, to enjoin the good and forbid the evil, to rejuvenate the Muslim ummah. This was the ultimate purpose of Hussein ibn Ali. This is why I always say that we must write the mission statement of Imam al-Hussein at the entrance of all of our majalis. From the very first night of Ashura, every time we enter a majlis and we leave from a majlis, we must remind ourselves with the mission statement of Al-Imam Abu Abdullah al-Hussein, so we do not off track, so we do not get involved in the cultural activities of the month of Muharram and we forget the bigger picture of why is it that Imam al-Hussein embarked on this special journey. Imam al-Hussein went to Mecca. He tried to rejuvenate the Muslim ummah while Hajj. He spoke to them. He gave sermons every single day. And listen to this. On the day that everyone was about to wear their ihram and begin the pilgrimage of Hajj, Imam al-Hussein and his few companions and his family left the city of Mecca. Many people say Imam al-Hussein felt unsafe. Imam al-Hussein was not a coward. Imam al-Hussein was not running away from a battlefield. Imam al-Hussein was not going away from the ultimate martyrdom that he knew he was about to achieve. No. So why is it that Imam al-Hussein didn't wait to perform Hajj? He could have just waited for another 3-4 days. Isn't Hajj one of the most important acts of worship in the religion of Islam? Why is it that Al-Imam al-Hussein leaves Hajj with his companions and his family? Imam al-Hussein, brothers and sisters, realized Hajj has only become a ritual. It's a cultural practice. There is no spirit of Islam in that Hajj. If he speaks to those people, then they are dead. They're not being moved. Then what is the point of Hajj? What is the point of the acts of worship? Therefore, Imam al-Hussein went on to a much more important journey than just performing a cultural Hajj. Imam al-Hussein knew he had a much greater task than just being part of a crowd. Let's ask ourselves, are we just being part of a crowd? Are we here because it's a cultural activity? Imam al-Hussein went on the journey of change. If we attend a single majlis of Imam al-Hussein, a single sermon, and we don't feel the urge to change, to want to become better people. If we attend majalis years in, years out, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, but yet we do not become the ambassadors of Islam. We cannot defend the Holy Quran. We cannot stand in defense of Rasulullah and the immaculate progeny, then guess what? We have failed. And the majalis that we've attended, they have failed. We shouldn't call ourselves as part of the alliance of Imam al-Hussein, the allies of Imam al-Hussein, the companions of Imam al-Hussein. We're just merely people that are standing there and watching. Imam al-Hussein is not looking for a big crowd, trust me. Imam al-Hussein is not looking for numbers. Imam al-Hussein is looking for quality. If Imam al-Hussein was looking for numbers, he would never have left the city of Medina. He would have performed Hajj and went back to Medina, and he would have had truce with Yazid. Imam al-Hussein was looking for a few men that are going to change the world forever. And Imam al-Hussein changed the fate of Islam forever. Imam al-Hussein changed the fate of humanity forever with a few men. And tonight, at the very first lecture, I would like to touch upon an extremely important topic. A topic that needs the spirit of Imam al-Hussein and needs the spirit of the companions of Imam al-Hussein, those who are willing to give everything they possibly have for the sake of that ultimate purpose. I am here to address the following question. Are the majalis of Imam al-Hussein bringing about that change that our community needs? Is the minbar of Imam al-Hussein serving our community the way it should? When you attend a majlis, when you attend Ashura for 10 days and you leave, do you feel that you've now become closer to the Quran, closer to your religion, closer to Allah, closer to the message of Hussein? Is the minbar truly doing that for us? Whether it's here or elsewhere in the world. And I tell you sometimes, some of the majalis and some of the gatherings of Imam al-Hussein go directly against the teachings and the principles of Hussein. Yeah, it's a huge statement. But let me explain to you. Today, many of the majalis and the gatherings around the world, and especially in the West, are based on a nationalistic approach, a cultural activity, a cultural festival. What do I mean? You know, it's very difficult for me to sit in my vehicle and end up in Najaf or Karbala or Basra every evening, and then the next day be in LA or, for example, New York or London or Sydney for work or for school. So what we've done is we've made Husseyniyat, we've made places, centers, organizations in the name of Imam al-Hussein, but to remind us of how we used to do things back home. Because obviously we can't go back home every day. So you find centers in the name of Imam al-Hussein, but you go there and they're just for Iraqis. Or you go there and they're just for the Lebanese. Or you go there and they're just for the Afghani community, the Khoja community, the Pakistani community, the Indian community. And they do things exactly the way they're done back home. It's a cultural activity. And you wonder, 10 years, 20 years later, when those people are attending those majalis and you hold them and you say, listen, you've been attending majalis for about 30 years now. Let me ask you very simple questions about Islam. Go ahead. Name the first 12 chapters from the Quran. Well, I know the first 3, but then do I have to mention them in order? It's kind of difficult. Really? Tell me the years in which every imam took the leadership position of imamah. Imam al-Rida, which year did he take the leadership position of imamah? And which year did he end up giving it to Imam al-Jawad? How long? Very, very simple alphabetical questions about Islam. I'm not talking about detailed fiqhi issues. Do we know how to defend the Holy Quran? You attend majalis for 20 years and then you end up going to college or going to work and you speak with your employer or your employee and they're asking you, listen, you know, those verses in the Quran when it talks about killing non-Muslims, what are they about? You're thinking, last night in the lecture, the speaker was talking about the horse of Imam Hussein. Was it brown or white? Oh, that's not going to help me answer this question. Or, for example, I learned the details of the battle when Abu al-Fadl Abbas went to the Euphrates until he came back. I know how to say that backwards 50 times. I've memorized it. But guess what? When it comes to, for example, discussing issues revolving the Quran or chapter 9 from the Holy Quran, Surah Al-Tawbah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks of the Muslim, non-Muslim relationships, I'm lost. I'm clueless. They'll bring hadiths from Muslim books, right? And they'll put it in front of us and they'll say, can you explain this hadith for me? How is it that your Prophet of Islam married a 9-year-old, for example? And you say, well, that's not true. Then they'll hit you up with a hadith right there. Not 1, not 2, 10 hadiths, 20 hadiths. And you're thinking, well, those things were never really discussed in the lectures I attend. If we attend the majalis of Imam al-Hussein and we do not become ambassadors of change within our community, where we live, and how we live, then the majalis and our attendance in those majalis have failed. So when you see all those cultural places, and it's funny, you know, because people in the street, they're driving, following all the laws or the regulations, they park, you know, they put on their seatbelt, they do everything right, but as soon as they get into that place where they've made, just like back home, they've decorated it like back home, the food they give us, they don't even drive now, they don't even drive correctly now. They'll double park, they'll block driveways, all sorts of things. And as soon as they leave, once again, no, they're back to their normal lives. Let's not be selfish with Imam al-Hussein. Imam al-Hussein is not about a cultural, ritualistic activity. Imam al-Hussein is much bigger than that. And the message and the role of Imam al-Hussein within our community must be much bigger than that. Many of the times, you find people discriminating against one another in the majalis of Imam al-Hussein. Once again, that directly contradicts the teachings of Al-Imam Abu Abdullah. Look at the camp of Imam al-Hussein. Multicultural, multi-religious. Today, we must welcome every human being who is interested in Islam. in the Holy Quran, in the Ahl al-Bayt, in Islam, in humanity, in freedom, in justice, in liberty, in equality. Whether they are Shia, Sunni, Sufi, Christians, Jews, atheists, I don't care what they are. If they are interested in Imam al-Hussein and his message and his legacy, we must welcome them in open arms. This is why I would like to discuss this very crucial topic in the following 3 steps. Number 1, the content of our majalis. Number 2, the disconnect of our community with the religious institution. And number 3, misinterpreting the role of scholars within our community. I find those 3 elements, brothers and sisters, extremely crucial for the survival of the majalis of Imam al-Hussein, especially in the West. And I find those elements extremely crucial for the survival of Shiasm in the West. If we don't wake up, and if we don't change our ways, the whole madhab is in jeopardy. And Imam al-Hussein, like I said, brothers and sisters, is that master of change. He is the last hope of change. Go and study the situation of the Muslims at that period. The period of the uprising of Imam al-Hussein and prior to that. You know, it wasn't just an overnight decision where Imam al-Hussein says, you know what, I'm going to go and just become a martyr. No. It was a 20-year process that led Imam al-Hussein to Karbala. Go and read history. Some of the khulafa, the so-called caliphs of the Muslims, they would pray Salat al-Jumu'ah, the Friday prayers, not on Friday, but on Wednesday. This is not a joke. They would pray Salat al-Jumu'ah on Wednesday. Well, that's not a big deal. Some of the so-called Khalifa, they would sit and deliver the khutbah. The Friday prayers, you know, you have to be standing, obviously. So they would sit and deliver the khutbah. Why? Because of obesity. Extreme obesity. He was so infatuated with food that he could not stand and deliver the khutbah. And it's funny, because some of those individuals and some of those characters, you literally cannot mention their name. They're so sanctified and they're so holy to some people. And you look at them and you say, look, you're following those people. For example, amongst them is Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, who took the Khilafah away from Imam al-Hasan and became the 5th or 6th Khalifa. Right? And you would think that those people who follow Muawiyah, they actually know what his biography was like. What kind of person he was. Muawiyah, out of obesity, sat on the minbar and delivered Salat al-Jumu'ah. Not only that, he prayed it on Wednesday. More importantly, you know those people, they have a long beard, you know, up to their belly buttons. And you're thinking, do you know what Muawiyah's beard looked like? He used to plug his beard every single day. They have these short dresses, you know, the mini skirts. And you say, why are you wearing that? He says, well, this is the sunnah of Rasulullah. Rasulullah never told you to wear a mini skirt. He says, don't let your dress drag, because obviously back then, you know, there weren't any paved streets, so people's dresses were getting dirty. So Rasulullah was speaking of cleanliness, but he wasn't, asking us to walk around with miniskirts. History says, and I kid you not, go look at the biography of Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan. Once he would enter the mosque as the Khalifa of the Muslims, 7 people would have to carry his dress. Yeah. When he would enter, his dress was so long that 7 people would have to walk behind him carrying his dress. Is this a Khalifa of the Muslims? And, after Muawiyah, the situation got so much worse that the only hope for survival of Islam was Imam al-Hussein. Today, sometimes we feel there is no hope. But the majalis of Imam al-Hussein are meant to rejuvenate the community of Imam al-Hussein. And that is why I have chosen to speak of those very important factors to bring about change and to ensure the salvation of the madhab of the Ahl al-Bayt, especially in the West. Let me list them to you one more time. One is صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. الثاني على حب الحسن والحسين. First is the content of our majalis, the content of our Islamic centers. Number 2 is the disconnect of the community and the religious institution. And number 3 is misinterpreting the role of scholars. Let's discuss them one by one. Brothers, we have a huge dilemma. And we should not ignore this topic. Many of us, when we attend the majalis, whether it's Muharram, whether it's Ramadan, whether it's Arba'een, whether it's a weekly program, we don't feel connected with the content. The content that is being delivered. Sometimes some people, they have actually memorized the majalis every single night. They know if they go, the speaker who they've been listening to for 20 years, first night, this is his topic. For the past 20 years, it doesn't change. Second night, this is his topic. Third night, that's it. 7th, 8th, they'll have it memorized. They'll say it before he says it. And obviously, this new generation is not going to tolerate that. And that's the truth. That is why we need to change the content of the majalis to the following 3. Number 1, the content of every majlis should revolve around the Quran, the holy book of Allah. The majalis should create a relationship between us and the Holy Quran. Amir al-Mu'mineen describes the believers. And he describes their relationship with the Holy Quran to a point that he says, every evening, instead of those mu'mineen sleeping and enjoying the comfort of their beds, what happens? أَمَّا اللَّيْلِ فَصَافُونَ أَقْدَامَهُمْ. They stand. يُرَتِّلُونَ أَجْزَاءَ الْقُرْآنِ تَرْتِيلًا. They recite sections from the Quran. فإذا مروا بآية فيها تخويف أصغوا إليها مسامع قلوبهم وإذا مروا بآية فيها تشويق أصغوا إليها مسامع قلوبهم فهم والنار كمن رآها وهم والجنة كمن رآها صبروا أياما قليلة أتبعتهم راحة طويلة. Look at this statement by Amir al-Mu'minin. He says, you want to know the relationship of a mu'min with the Quran? At night, they stand firmly reciting the Holy Quran in a beautiful melody. And if they reach an ayah that speaks of the wrath of Allah, they give fear to themselves from it. So it's as if they have seen the hellfire, not with their eyes, but with their souls. And when they reach an ayah that speaks of the bounties and the mercy of Allah, it's as if they witness it. It's as if they've seen paradise with their souls. The majalis are meant to contain the teachings of the Quran, brothers and sisters, not fictitious tales and stories and dreams and entertainment. Number two, the majalis should speak of logic. Don't sit here telling me illogical things that are not based on reason or rationale. Islam is a religion based on reason and intellect. Islam began with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Iqra bismi rabbika alladhi khalaq. Don't sit there talking about dreams and fictitious tales and stories for 2 hours. You know, some of the lectures are more like a Bollywood movie than a lecture, an intellectual debate. Third, do not exaggerate. Do not exaggerate in anything. You know, some of the speakers or orators or reciters of Masa'ib, they exaggerate everything so much. And you ask them, brother, you know, I missed this. Which book is this from? Well, I just made it up. What do you mean you made it up? This is the tragedy of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. This is a tragedy that the Malaika cried upon. You're making it up? Why? So that people can cry more? Isn't 1 minute of the tragedy of Imam al-Hussein enough for us to weep for centuries? So we end up making stories? And guess what? We make up some stories as a part of the exaggeration, and people will then start doubting everything that we say. You know, they say there was an orator, and he used to really exaggerate the event of Ashura. So he would say, for example, Qasim, he went to the battlefield and he killed about 50,000. And then Abbas came and he killed about 100,000. And then Ali Akbar came and he killed about 500,000. So they came to him, they said, listen, you know, there weren't as many numbers in all of Iraq at that period, you know. If all of Iraq gathered at that period and Sham together, they weren't about, you know, the numbers you're saying only Qasim killed. So this is, you know, this doesn't look good. So, you know, tone it down. He says, okay. Goes and sits on the minbar and he, you know, starts with Qasim, and then he says, Qasim killed, you know, 50,000. Somebody's sitting there, he coughs and he realizes the number was big. So he says, okay, 20,000. He coughs again, he says, well, 10,000. Then they move to Ali al-Akbar and he reaches Abbas, says, and Abbas, he killed 500,000. This guy starts coughing. So he looks at him and he says, fine, 200,000. Until he reaches 10,000, he says, listen, you can cough all year long. I'm not going to go under 10,000 for Abbas. And sometimes those things are so exaggerated, and we feel it's part of our respect towards Amir al-Mu'mineen, our respect towards Imam al-Hussein, our respect towards the martyrs of Ashura. Indeed, it is the greatest form of disrespect to them. Imam al-Hussein was the one that stood in front of all the enemies. And he says, I am the son of Ali ibn Abi Talib. If all the Arabs stand in front of me and they draw their swords to fight me, I will not run away from them. That is bravery. That is Hussein ibn Ali. Or else if Hussein wanted to employ miracles on the day of Ashura, he wouldn't have been killed. And he wouldn't have been slain thirsty. The miracle of Imam al-Hussein is today, when millions upon millions of people after his martyrdom walk to his grave and they pay their respect to him. That is the miracle of Hussein. So we must make our content a content that is relevant. A content that speaks of the problems of people today, addresses their issues and concerns on daily basis, not a content that belongs to 200 years ago. Number two, I would like to address the issue of the disconnect between our community and the religious institution. Sayyid, what do you mean the religious institution? Do you mean the Husayniyah? Do you mean the masjid? Do you mean the hawza? Do you mean the marji'iyah? Do you mean the wakil of the marji'iyah? Yes, I do. All the above. Every single one. There is a disconnect. People in the community today, whether we like it or we don't, whenever they sit in circles, especially religious people, they criticize the religious institution. And we are giving deaf ears to their criticism. Saying, what do they know? They're just chasing their businesses and going about their lives. What do they know? Especially the youth. What do the youth know about the religious institution? We don't need to listen to them. And the religious institution is subject to a lot of criticism. And that's just been the case. Look at religious people in the Christian religion. When they sit, that's what it is. It's Chinese whispers of criticizing their church. Catholics, same thing. Jews, the same thing. Buddhists, the same thing. Hindus, the same thing. But I'm not concerned about them. I am concerned about my own community. Every time we sit, especially religious people, Sahrat in the month of Ramadan, month of Muharram, over Argila, the very first topic, the easiest topic, the sweetest topic of the majalis, shukhaye, and the criticism of the religious institution begins. It should not fall on deaf ears. One of the most important and critical issues is the fact that people are now used to democracies. Being part of a democracy, being part of a system. Today, you can vote on literally everything in your society, whether it's the city council, or your mayor, or your member of Congress, or your president, and everyone else that represents you. However, the religious institution is stuck in a monarchy. We're not part of the system. While every believer, every mu'min and mu'mina must be part of that religious institution, must be able to voice their opinion, and their opinion must be respected and it must be heard. This is the teaching of Amir al-Mu'mineen. This is what Imam al-Hussein was trying to achieve. Don't let anyone else fool you otherwise. People will stand in front of Amir al-Mu'mineen and khutbat al-Jumu'ah and they would criticize him. And Imam Amir al-Mu'mineen would listen to them, even though he was ma'soom. And their criticism was never falling on deaf ears. Amir al-Mu'mineen, when he went to Kufa and he became the Khalifa, he built his bedroom right next to the entrance of his house. And he put his house right into the downtown. So some people, they came to him, they said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, You're good at everything except engineering, man. Who puts their bedroom right next to the entrance? He says, I do. Why, ya Amir al-Mu'mineen? He says, because people will knock at the door of the Khalifa. And if my bedroom is all the way to the end of the house, it takes time for me to come and open the door and listen to what they have to say. So I've kept my bedroom right next to the entrance. So as soon as they knock at my door, I am available to them. That is the religious institution. And that is the role of the ulama today. To listen to the community. Number 2, many of the community members, especially in the West, have a great complaint. What is their complaint? Is it a valid complaint? Well, let's hear it. The religious institution does not understand our concerns. It doesn't understand our needs. It's not giving us solutions. Instead, the religious institution is giving us Risala al-Amaliyah, the book of laws. There is about 12,000, 14,000, 16,000 laws in that book. It's a very thick book. I'm sure you've all come across it. And then you want to learn about Salah, for example. So there are about 1,200 laws concerning Salah. Well, guess what? It's going to take 3 years for you to read them. And let's say you read them. Do people understand them? I've seen people, they say, Sayyid, I understand Arabic. I read magazines, I read books. But when it comes to the Risala of the Amaliyah of any marja', I read it and I don't understand it. It's confusing to me. I don't understand what ihtiyat means, what precaution means. I don't understand what tark al-awla means. I don't understand all those terminologies and the wording of those laws, and they're just too many. And they confuse me. We need a much simpler book of laws. And that, indeed, is an extremely valid concern. Number 3, the believers, the men and women living in the West, they have a different lifestyle. They have different concerns. They have different needs. And the religion of Islam, especially the fiqh of Ahl al-Bayt, is a flexible fiqh. As a fiqh that's meant to make our lives easier. It's meant to make our lives beautiful. It's meant to draw us towards the religion of Islam. It's not meant to make the religion so complicated that you're saying, listen, I don't want to have anything to do with religion. I can't follow those laws. They're just too difficult. And number 3, the third point that I'd like to discuss is misinterpreting the role of scholars. Listen to me. I want to have an extremely honest discussion with you now. We sometimes misinterpret the role of scholars. What do I mean? We believe scholars are meant to be imports. Imports from Iraq, Najaf, Qom. People who are old, gray hair, white beards, that are holy, that are spiritual. That is not the role of scholars. Yes, we have many different kinds of scholars. Some of those roles, some of those tasks must be played by those who have 50, 60, 70 years of experience at the Hawza. That is the role of the maraja, the teachers, the researchers, those who head the research. But today in the West, we need scholars amongst you, from your community, that understand your concerns. And don't tell me, well, Sayyidina, I can't become a scholar. I mean, it's just not the lifestyle I want. Why not? You know, let me give you this beautiful story, and I think within the story a lot of questions will be answered. One day a young man was caught stealing in a village in Iraq. So they gathered and they said, you know what, we're going to cut his hand. He just goes around stealing, and he's a thug, and he's a gangster, and look at him. We're going to teach him a lesson. So he says to them, listen, instead of amputating my hand, let me leave the city. I'm never going to come back. And you know, the elders of the community, they came and they spoke, and they decided they're going to let him go. He walked out of the city. Didn't know where to go. It was nighttime, it was dark, he was lonely by himself. And he says, "Oh Allah, I hear you're the most compassionate Lord. You're forgiving, and you're kind, and you're gracious, and you forgive all of our sins. Would you forgive my sins? Are you that merciful? Would you help me? Would you guide me? God, I'm testing you today. I know I'm a sinner, but I'm testing you. This very second. Are you that God that I've heard of?" And then he just goes to sleep. The next day comes a caravan, and they wake him up. "Hey, what are you doing sleeping in the middle of the desert? It's dangerous. Where are you guys going?" They say, "We're going to Najaf. You can tag along." Tags along, ends up in Najaf, doesn't have a place to stay, so he goes to a hawza, a dormitory, and he sleeps there 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights, and he gets introduced to a scholar, and the scholar tells him, "You know, I don't care what your background is, but you should start your hawza studies. Study the religion of Islam." Doesn't know this guy's a thief. And he, right there and then, realizes that this was the window of opportunity from Allah to him. This was his calling. At that moment, he was able to forgive himself. He was able to forget his past. He didn't sit there and say, "Well, you know, I'm a thief. What am I going to do at the hawza?" No. He realized that Allah is that merciful, compassionate Lord. He studied and studied for 20 years, and he became one of the closest scholars to the grand marja of his time. People that debate the grand marja of his time. One day, as he was sitting next to the grand marja, and they were debating over a fiqhi law, people, a delegation from his village came to visit this marja. The same people that wanted to amputate his hand. Subhanallah. Look at how Allah works in mysterious ways. And they came and they sat next to the marja. Obviously, they don't know this guy. They don't recognize him. He said to the marja, "Sayyidina, we would like for you to send us your finest of students." So they become your ambassadors and they teach us. So the Sayyid said, "Which village are you from?" They said the name of the village. He said, "This man is from this village, and he is amongst the finest of my students. Please shake his hand and take him with you." He himself says this story. He says, every one of them, every single one of those men who wanted to amputate my hand 20, 25 years back, kissed my hand, respected me, and took me as the alim in their village. Don't tell me I can't become a scholar. There is no monopoly on knowledge. There is no reason for you to feel that your background should stop you from becoming a scholar. Every time Allah speaks of prophets in the Quran, He says the prophets were amongst them, from them, spoke their language, was like a brother, was like a cousin. Yeah, your brother understands you. Your cousin understands you. They are one of you. The only way for us to see that great change within our community is once people go and they study. They truly study. You know, some people, they go to a long ziyarah trip, like 3 months, and they come back with a turban. Habibi, what happened? What's this? Wallah amalit sheikh. What happened? Did you receive revelations there? Or, you know? No. I truly mean, go and study. Go and see the scholars. Go and see the seminary. And stay there. And come back as a learned scholar. Fi sabilillah. And illuminate the path of your community and guide them and rejuvenate them and bring about change to them. If we do this, then there is hope for the survival of Shiasm. And if we don't, brothers and sisters, then I am afraid we are putting the future of Islam and Shiasm in jeopardy. And we seek inspiration from Imam al-Hussein on this evening, on the very first night. We take our hearts and our souls and our entire existence to that holy land, all together, to Imam al-Hussein, to Karbala. I say to him, all the way from Sydney, Ya Sayyidana wa Mawlana, Ya Aba Abdullah al-Hussein, Ya Ibn Rasulillah, Ya Sayyid Shabab Ahl al-Jannah, يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. يا سيدنا ومولانا إنا توجهنا واستشفعنا وتوسلنا بك إلى الله وقدمناك بين يدي حاجاتنا. Tonight is the first night. They say the first night is the most special night. It's the night that Imam al-Hussein writes the name of those who are present with him from day one. So let us raise our voices, men and women. All of you are, mashallah, young men and women. Together, يا وجيها عند الله اشفع لنا عند الله. 3 times, as loudest as you can. يا وجيها عند الله اشفع. ما شاء الله. يا وجيها عند الله. Those who have special hajat, those who have ill ones. There's a sister that's asked me for a special dua for her mother. One more time, all of us together, with all of our existence, as if you are standing in front of the shrine of Aba Abdullah al-Hussein. يا وجيها عند الله. Yes, indeed, Imam al-Hussein. Tonight we recall his exit from the holy city of Medina, where he was born, where he was raised, where he recalls how Rasulullah would hold him and he would carry Hussein. Then he would sit on the minbar and he would show everyone the neck of Hussein. And then he would lift up the head of Hussein so everyone would see, his companions would see the neck of Hussein. And he would kiss the neck of Aba Abdullah. Imam al-Hussein went, he visited his grave, the grave of Rasulullah. He says, Ya Rasulullah, Ana Habibuka al-Hussein. I am your beloved Hussein. I am your grandson Hussein. I am willing to embark on this journey to save your religion. They say he fell asleep. ضمني عندك يا جداه في هذا الضريح علني يا جد بلوى زماني أستريح فعلى من جانب القبر بكاء ونحيب بافتجاع ونياح يا حبيبي يا حسين. Rasulullah came to his dream. He says to him, Ya Habibi, Ya Hussein, this is the task that Allah has prescribed onto you. So Imam al-Hussein, the next day, he began to gather his family and he was leaving out of Medina. He went to say his goodbyes to his grandmother, to the wife of Rasulullah, Salama. He went to the wife of Rasulullah, Salama. She hugged him, she cried. She said, Ya Hussein, let me inform you. One day you were a 3-4-year-old boy and Rasulullah came and he wanted to rest in my home. So he told me, Salama, don't allow anyone to interrupt me. I want to sleep. I am very tired. She says, Hussein, you are a young boy. You came into the house. I tried to stop you, but you ran into the room of Rasulullah. And as soon as Rasulullah saw you, he says, Habibi Hussein, Nur Aini Hussein. He hugged you and he began to play with you and he says, Salama, this is my rest. This is my joy. She says, I left. I came back and I saw Rasulullah was full of tears. He had cried so much that his beard was full of tears. I said, Ya Rasulullah, why are you crying? Isn't this your source of joy? He says to her, Salama, as I was playing with Hussein, Jibreel came to me. He says, Ya Rasulullah, I want to inform you of a tragedy. Rasulullah says, Jibreel, this is not a time for you to inform me of a tragedy. I am enjoying the presence of my grandson Hussein. He says, Ya Rasulullah, the tragedy pertains this man, Hussein. He will be thirsty. He will be all alone. He will be in the middle of a desert called Karbala. And he will be slain next to the Euphrates. By who, Ya Jibreel? By people that call themselves as part of your ummah. And he says, Jibreel removed the curtains from my vision and I saw the event of Ashura. And I saw how Hussein will stand in front of tens of thousands of people who call themselves Muslim. And he says, ألا هل من ناصر ينصرنا ألا هل من مغيث يغيثنا ألا هل من معين يعيننا ونحن آل بيت رسول الله is there anyone to come to our rescue? And we are the progeny of Rasulullah. She says, then he gave me some of the soil of Karbala. Rasulullah gave some of the soil of Karbala to Salama. He says, Salama, whenever the soil turns into blood, know that Hussein has been slain in Karbala. Allahu Akbar. And let me just say this one sentence for those who have daughters, for those who know the connection between a father and his daughter. A young daughter, maybe 4 or 5 years old. Her name was Fatima. She was handicapped. Imam al-Hussein could not take her because he knew exactly what was going to happen on the day of Ashura. So Fatima al-Alila, he kept her with Salama. She says to him, Father, where are you going? He says, I'm going to a long journey. You will not be able to survive. She says, Father, when will you return? Imam al-Hussein says to her, stay with your grandmother Salama, and inshaAllah we will return. We will be united, inshaAllah, with Allah. This young girl, she doesn't know. They say Imam al-Hussein said his goodbyes to Fatima al-Alila, and he was leaving. When he was leaving, Fatima says, Ya Abatah, Ya Aba Abdullah, now that you're leaving and you're taking every one of my brothers, Aliyun al-Akbar, Zainul Abidin, all of my family, at least leave Aliyun al-Asghar, the 6-month-old infant with me. I will take care of him. Imam al-Hussein says to her, Ya Fatima, this young boy, this young infant must accompany us in this trip because he has a noble task. Assalamu ala al-Hussein wa ala Ali ibn al-Hussein wa ala awlad al-Hussein wa ala ashab al-Hussein wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Let us raise our hands in dua. نسألك اللهم وندعوك ونقسم عليك باسمك العظيم الأعظم 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 الأعز الأجل الأكرم. 10 times, all of us together. We beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a state of اضطرار. أَمَّنْ يُجِيبُ الْمُضْطَرَّ إِذَا دَعَاهُ وَيَكْشِفُ السُّوءَ. Allah is the only one that answers our dua. Let us call on to Him. Arhamur Rahimeen 10 times. Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Allah. يا رحمن يا رحيم. اللهم إنا نقسم عليك بأحب الخلق إليك محمد وعلي وفاطمة والحسن والحسين والتسعة المعصومين من ذرية الحسين. Oh Allah, after the dua, I want everyone to say Ameen. Oh Allah, every man and woman present in this majlis with a sin, forgive our sins. Shower onto us from your forgiveness. Shower onto the graves of the mu'mineen and mu'minat from your compassion. Oh Allah, hasten the reappearance of Sayyidina wa Mawlana Sahib al-Asri wa Zaman. Oh Allah, give us and honor us with the visitation of Hussein. Honor us with the intercession and the shafa'ah of Hussein. Oh Allah, illuminate our lives with the Holy Quran. Oh Allah, illuminate our lives with the path of the Ahlul Bayt. Oh Allah, every man and woman with an illness present in this majlis, shower onto them from your cure. Every man and mu'min, every mu'min and mu'mina with an illness around the world, shower onto them from your cure. Every man and woman, mu'min and mu'minah present in this majlis with a haja, give them their hajat. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وإلى أرواح المؤمنين والمؤمنات والعلماء والشهداء وخدمة الحسين نهدي جميعا ثواب سورة المباركة الفاتحة مع الصلوات.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. زيارة وارثة, by the way, inshallah it shouldn't take more than 5 minutes. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. السلام عليك يا وارث آدم صفوة الله. السلام عليك يا وارث نوح نبي الله. السلام عليك يا وارث إبراهيم خليل الله. السلام عليك يا وارث موسى كليم الله. السلام